Now, before I go on with this conversation, I want to acknowledge what Naomi has said in the chat again. Now, I don't want to get too caught up in the chat too often, but my goodness, this is so important. And I should have mentioned it before and I failed to. Naomi's just said this. My son's 9 and is really only just starting to get a handle on his emotions. Naomi, there are a couple of reasons for this. The first one is developmental. What researchers tend to argue from a developmental point of view is that our children don't really learn to manage their emotions well. That is, to have the self-awareness and the self-leadership, those two things at the top, until they're around about 8 or 9, certainly in Western cultures. It may be that in other cultures that stuff comes in a lot earlier. There are different expectations and different socialization practices, which are probably actually more useful in many cases. Not always, but in many cases. But here's the thing, and this answers Larissa's question as well. At what age is it reasonable to expect a child to have decent emotional regulation or a socially acceptable way of regulating? So it exists on a continuum. This capacity to self-manage, to self-soothe, to individually regulate without needing a co-regulatory partner. And it seems to be somewhere around 6 to 7 that it really kicks in, but 8 or 9 is where you would really expect to see it happening without lots and lots of reminders and support. Even then, you'll probably find that as an adult, you are better able to regulate your emotions when you have a supportive individual close by to lean on, to give you the breathing space that you need to help guide you through that emotion, or at least provide you with the emotional support while you're having it. So the expectation that our 3 and 4-year-olds should be emotionally regulated is unfair, it's unreasonable, it's developmentally inappropriate. And when we say stop it, calm down, be quiet, that's enough, we're failing to take into account their developmental trajectory and milestones. It's just not fair. But like I said, it exists on a continuum. So by about the age of 5, they're starting to get the hang of it. By about 7, they can usually settle into something like this, so long as they're not too tired or not too hungry or not too overwhelmed. It's almost impossible once that happens. By about 9, they're usually doing pretty well. But here's the thing. We all know plenty of adults. Sometimes we are that adult that cannot seem to do it ourselves. And that's the great challenge, is how do we help our kids to get there? And how do we get there ourselves when we're definitely not doing so well?